The lines on a modern map of Europe are the messy residue of 15th-century panic and a series of historical accidents. In 1477, Charles the Bold, ruler of the wealthy Burgundian state, died suddenly in battle. His death left a massive power vacuum in the center of the continent, with no clear successor to hold the territory together. This is Mary of Burgundy. At 19, she inherited a domain that was suddenly the target of every major power in Europe, facing rebellions from her own cities and invasions from her neighbors. King Louis XI of France struck immediately. He annexed the Duchy of Burgundy, executed Mary's most influential advisors, and began a systematic campaign to absorb the rest of her lands in the Low Countries. This French aggression forced the young ruler into a desperate defensive play that would permanently fix France's strategic position for centuries. To maintain internal stability, Mary signed the Great Privilege, a charter that restored local rights to her provinces in exchange for their loyalty against France. For external survival, she hastily married Archduke Maximilian of Austria, bringing the military weight of the Habsburgs into the fight to stop the French advance. The marriage caused the economic wealth of the Burgundian Netherlands to lock together with the imperial status of the Austrian Habsburgs. This created a geographic wall along France's eastern and northern borders, blocking their expansion routes and containing the French crown within its existing limits. Mary's reign ended just 5 years later, following a tragic riding accident. While her time on the throne was short, she had successfully prevented her core lands from being absorbed by the French. Louis XI's attempt to bully a teenager into submission had backfired. Instead of capturing her wealth, his aggression birthed the Habsburg Superpower, creating France's most enduring and dangerous rival. By 1515, a new king sat on the French throne. Francis I was determined to restore French honor and began a massive push to expand the kingdom's borders. His goal lay to the south. By capturing the Duchy of Milan, Francis believed he could secure French dominance over the entire Italian peninsula. However, Milan was defended by a coalition of Swiss troops, who were widely considered the best infantry in Europe. For 2 centuries, the Swiss had been viewed as unstoppable. Their discipline and their mastery of 18-foot pikes and heavy halberds allowed them to crush traditional medieval armies with ease. For Francis to dominate the continent, he had to find a way to break a military formation that no other army had been able to penetrate. In September 1515, the Swiss launched a surprise offensive near Marignano, silencing their marching drums to catch the French army off guard. This relief carving shows the density of the Swiss formation. They attacked in massive, deep columns of pikemen, using their sheer weight and momentum to overwhelm enemy lines. Francis countered this with a new way of fighting. He deployed 72 heavy artillery guns, the most advanced in Europe, behind a trench and coordinated their fire with heavy cavalry. The cannons fired directly into the Swiss pikes, tearing holes in the ranks that the French cavalry could then exploit. The battle lasted for 2 grueling days, with the armies fighting by the light of a bright moon until nearly midnight. The cost of the French victory was staggering. Gravediggers later submitted bills for burying over 16,000 bodies. Marignano did more than just secure Milan. The defeat was so severe that the Swiss permanently withdrew from foreign military affairs, marking the beginning of their national neutrality. In the months following the battle, French power seemed total. Francis I won his glory, broken the Swiss, and occupied the fortified stronghold of Milan. But while the French king focused on his tactical victory in Italy, the long-term consequences of his predecessor's actions were finally coming to a head. Mary of Burgundy's bloodline had continued through her son to her grandson, Charles V. By 1519, Charles consolidated a collection of crowns that Europe had never seen combined. He now ruled the Holy Roman Empire, Spain, and the Burgundian Netherlands. Francis I had won a battle, but he was now completely surrounded. Every French border was now controlled by a single man, the heir to the woman France had tried to destroy 40 years earlier. Charles V used this massive encircling empire to strike back, turning France into a strategic trap. In 1522, Charles simply declared the French occupation of Milan illegal and forced them out. In just 7 years, the entire victory of Marignano was erased. The aggressive bullying of Mary in 1477 had directly forged the very empire that would contain French ambitions for the next 2 centuries. France chased short-term territorial gains, but their actions inadvertently established the borders of modern Europe by creating a Habsburg giant and forcing Swiss neutrality. Ultimately, the most enduring power comes from the slow, inescapable consequences of the enemies you create, rather than the biggest cannons on the field.